Alright, I want to show you a quick thing about basically just the content browser, specifically for doing trees in this case. But if you go into Windows, General Editors, and Content Browser, it will pull up this. For some reason it wouldn't pull up when I was recording. As soon as I stopped, it was like, hey, it's a window. So they have some basic models you can grab, like fish and some other random stuff. You should pretty much just grab that, dump it in your scene, and it will deposit you this glorious little fish mesh. So they have a bunch of random stuff like this. If you need it, they can be good for, you know, like teeth and other random topology. I've never really used the models. They have, you know, bipeds, some other random things if you need them. Honestly, some of these are like pretty handy, like these torsos and stuff are kind of nice. Anywho, in this case, what I am looking at is the paint effects, and they have a bunch of really weird stuff. So they have like these, honestly, I wouldn't really use. They have some city meshes, so like theoretically you can just sort of drag that and you just basically make a little city by just clicking and dragging in your view. It looks really weird. These are not necessarily coherent sizes for things. A great example is this fire, because I know they have some that are like actually, that look much more sort of aggressive in terms of size. But one thing I do want to note is that by default, most of these are not designed to render with like Arnold and such. So I'm just going to pull up the render view, the default Maya one, and go to Maya software and render this. And actually a lot like clearly looks totally different than it does in the outliner, or I'm sorry, in the viewport. So you really, a lot of these need to sort of render them to test them. But again, some of these, particularly like the fire and such, are not super designed to be rendered in something like Arnold. No idea what that was rendering last time. In this case, it literally doesn't show up at all. So, and part of that is also just I don't have any lights in my scene, but also like usually, oftentimes, paint effects still won't show up even if you don't have light. So that is just something to keep aware, or to be aware of. So in this case, I'm just going to pop in and get rid of some of this extra random nonsense that I have here. And I will let it ground plane, hopefully for some clarity. Flesh, really creepy, by the way. But they have lots of nice stuff that's like actually nice for, you know, different flowers. So I am partial to these little dahlias. I think they look kind of cool. If you can, you know, get close enough to them to actually see them. They also have assorted flower meshes. These are nice, particularly like these tulips and such, if you want, like, not card flowers, like a flower that's like an actual mesh in the shape of a flower. So like this, in this case, is something that I could convert into a polygon, thicken it, and then 3D print it if I wanted to, whereas this would just look kind of gross. So I render a few different things. You can populate cereal. Honestly, just go through these, play with it. They're really, really weird. They also have, where am I going? Trees. So the other things, again, that I'm partial to are the grasses. Some of these are pretty cool. Particularly if you need like cattails or some random stuff. Some of these even have animations on them. It depends which ones you grab. Then they also have trees, plants, assorted things. You can fill your scene with carrots. One of my personal favorites is lettuce, because it looks completely insane, and then you render it and it's like kind of looks like lettuce. So they have, again, two different versions of trees. So I'll grab glowing birch because I know that has some animations on it, and I will grab tree mesh. And you do want to be careful that you don't go completely insane with these, because they do pretty dramatically increase the poly count. But let's just go ahead and sort of see what we have. And again, clearly the scale is insane because the lettuce is half the size of the tree, but here we are. So I'm going to go ahead, just pop open the Arnold Render view, give this a render, nothing happens. Pop open I should just use the normal render view. If we render this with Maya software, you can see all of these actually show up. So let's go in, again, the lettuce, ooh, hello, what have I done? I put the exposure up insanely high, apparently, is what I did. So you can see like the lettuce actually looks, I'm not going to say it looks super like lettuce, but like that's kind of decent salad greens. Then you have some nice little like swoopy trees in the background. They're nice, like this kind of stuff is nice if you want to like composite it into the background, but obviously something that only renders in Maya software isn't ideal if you want to use this in like Arnold or whatever other random thing. So I'm going to show you two things. One is just how to convert this to something that will render with Arnold. And then the other one is maybe to grab like a tree and use it in some alternative ways. If you need to like make it a solid mesh or something like that, you can also modify the settings of these to sort of change their shape. So first, what I'm going to do, I guess I will show you this with the lettuce. Make it renderable in Arnold. It needs to be like traditional geometry. So you want to go to Modify, Convert, and somewhere in here, Paint Effects to Polygons is the option that we want. So there's some random options in here. You can choose Vertex Color mode. That'll basically just sort of try to color it based on the vertices. Normally I ignore this, to be honest. I'm curious what it's going to do, so I'm going to set that to color. The other thing is I like to check quad output, otherwise it'll triangulate stuff. Hide strokes is going to get rid of that little curve. You can kind of see it. You can see it like here. It's this curve that you drew basically when you scribbled on and like made the shapes. So you can hide that if you want. And then the poly limit is particularly important for stuff like trees, but this is basically like, hey, once you hit this limit, stop converting these and just basically ignore whatever's left. So if you're trying to cap it for performance purposes, you can set that. Otherwise, just obviously do know that, you know, it might delete part of your thing. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that. And it's going to make this lettuce mesh group. So doing this, it does leave the lettuce, like the original lettuce, here somewhere. But in this case, again, we have the actual geometry mesh. So you'll see that if we go into our Arnold render view and we render that, we now have mesh. And that is some real wonky shading there. But what we're now free to do is go ahead and assign whatever random new materials to this that we want. So you could do, right, like an Arnold standard surface shader and make that, you know, whatever crazy green color you are into. And it will then render your wonderful blue lettuce. So you can then, you know, go ahead and convert this to cards or whatever other texturing thing that you want. The cards are particularly helpful for stuff like these flowers and these trees. So again, trees in particular are like kind of weird because they have like all of these insane cards. So when you convert this, it's basically going to give you like the branches and then the leaves, and they're going to be all the leaves will be a single object, all the branches and trunk stuff will be a single object. So you can really easily select the leaves and then just assign them a new material, put actual leaf textures on this, and you're kind of good to go. Same thing with the flowers and all the cattails, all that good stuff. So I guess I will show you, let me see if I can do with the flowers. I'm not entirely sure. I don't usually play with flowers. Alright, so if you click on, you want to like modify the stroke to maybe get some more flowers, change the shape of them, something. You want to go into, I believe, the stroke node of this. And if you go into, okay, this one's actually a little bit different because it's, I believe, a mesh output, unless I'm going crazy. Or I'm in the wrong area. I do always have to click around in here until I find what I want. Okay, here we go. Okay, sorry. So I think it's actually whatever this node is here. Again, just sort of click around until you can find the options. Not ideal, but you can see there are some options here for like modifying the twist of things. If you just sort of click into a bunch of stuff, honestly, there's some weird different profiles that kind of like do some different things. You can add, okay, here we go. Yeah, these options are a little different for flowers. So you can add thorns if you want, which in this case doesn't seem to do a whole lot for this particular tulip. You can add flower thorns, whatever the heck that is. Let me actually show you this on a tree because the trees, I'm much more familiar with actually modifying the trees. I do kind of like that one. Alright, so I'm going to go into birch blowing, and this one actually is birch blowing, so it should, if you scrub through, it should have some animations on that. So as long as you can convert this to a mesh and it'll save those animations as long as you do not delete the history on your trees. So that can be a convenient way to sort of get some random animation in your scene. Alright, so let's go into, I believe it's tubes. Yes. Aha, okay. Let's go into tubes, creation. So again, some of these options get really crazy. If you bump it up, it'll add like 50 more trees and like crash your computer. So just be aware of that, save as you go. So you can just kind of like play with these. You can see, oof, this is going to change the overall shape of the tree. This seems to be sort of adding branches more or less. You can mess, if you want to, with the overall thickness of the tree. Again, I was doing something the other day where I was trying to generate a tree for 3D printing, and I didn't want it to be like super crazy thin, so I was messing with that. You can turn off leaves if you, oof, creepy looking tree. You can turn off leaves, you can turn off twigs, just kind of like see what the different things will get you on this tree. Okay, that was kind of weird. Flowers I always find very strange. But then, so like let's look at leaves and twigs and branches, kind of like what the tree basically originally was. Within these, I turned off twigs. So then you have more options, right? So you can be like, I want more start branches on this tree. You can just say, I want more branches in general. And you can really get in and start like messing with the shape to figure out kind of exactly what you want. They also usually have like, okay, they also a lot of times will have more width adjustments and such in there. So you can, for like something like the leaves, you can go in and you can say, I want more leaves. This usually will, a lot of times, make your computer kind of cry a little bit. But you can set, you know, again, different sort of quantities of leaves for the trees, etc. You can mess with the leaf length, the different properties of the leaves. So you have all of these different controls. You can even go in and set like different weird widths for your leaves if you want to make them like a very specific shape. It really just sort of depends, again, on what you're looking for in here. But all of these options are available for pretty much most of the settings, for the flowers, the buds, all of that stuff. So let's just say that we're really into this goofy tree. What I'm going to do is, again, do modify, convert, and where am I going? Paint effects to polys, leave my settings from last time, that's fine. Alright, so it should go through, cry for a little bit. I think it's still doing things. What are you doing? Yes, it is processing very slowly. So what it should do is, again, convert these into polygons that are usable, retexturable, and then you should be pretty much good to render these in Arnold or whatever other random software you're using. I might need to stop this recording to show you the next bit. So that's pretty much all I wanted to show you for the first bit. I'll show you a really quick, janky way to convert these to a single piece of geometry in ZBrush in the next video.